Hey, welcome to the Razzle Dazzle Show, a podcast where we talk about our favorite video games and all things pop culture with an emphasis on our favorites. I'm your host Jared, and our guest today is Juan Fandiño. Juan is a Spanish game developer and artist who has lived in Japan for the past 9 years. With a background in fine arts and photography, he transitioned into the gaming industry, becoming a 2D artist and eventually the art director for Yume Nikki Dream Diary. After this experience, Juan decided to pursue a deeply personal project, Last Time I Saw You, inspired by his own experiences of heartbreak and his fascination with Japanese culture. Set in 1980s Japan, this hand-drawn coming-of-age adventure explores themes of first love, friendships, and ancient curses. The game, developed under his studio Mabaroshi Artworks, has already garnered attention and awards, including recognition at Bit Summit and Day of the Devs. Juan was recommended by previous guest Chris Stair. Let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Razzle Dazzle Show, on TikTok at Razzle_Dazzle_Show, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Raz_Daz_Pod. And with all that being said,
it's Razzle Dazzle time.
Hello, Juan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. I'm fine, yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, a quick Kickstarter question I have for you before we get started. Have you ever tried out for baseball growing up?
No.
No?
I mean, well, maybe at school, at PE class, there were a couple of times where we had to try to do baseball, but no, I really have no idea about baseball.
Okay. Yeah, I asked because, you know, the best friend of the protagonist in your game tries out for baseball. I just want to see if there is any connections, but we'll dive deeper into that later. But first, can you tell us, where did you grow up and how'd you describe the musical background of your childhood?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I grew up in Spain, in Madrid. My father and my mother both are from Spain, and I was born in Madrid. And I think I started to seriously like music during my teenage years. But before that, now that you asked while growing up, that's difficult to say right now. I guess like some 90s song because I grew up in the 90s. But perhaps something that comes to mind right now would be like going in the car to summer vacation with my parents and perhaps having their Phil Collins. Like my father really liked Phil Collins, and I have this memory of me as a kid on a car going somewhere in the south, and having some Phil Collins songs in the car. Yeah.
Phil Collins, I love it, man.
Yeah.
Did you play any instruments growing up?
I actually did. When I was 11, I would say 10, 11, I started playing the violin because I was really, at that time I really like all this medieval stuff and that connected to Celtic music.
Right.
And one of my favorite bands at the time was like a Spanish rock band, but they had a violin. So they will mix rock or metal with some Celtic music. And I started to learn the violin, but it's a really difficult instrument. And at some point, years later, when I was 16, 17, I had to make a decision if continue with the violin or focus on drawing.
Right.
Because I wanted to enter art university, so there were some tests that you had to do, and during high school you should prepare to that. So I gave up the violin and focused on drawing. So yeah, I really like music. I listen to music every day. But I must say I was not talented at all with the violin, so I'm happy that I quit.
Well, violin is probably one of the hardest instruments to start for your first, so like it makes sense.
Yeah.
What was the first band or musician that really got your attention when you were young, or was it that still Phil Collins?
No. I mean, Phil Collins was my father.
Got it.
I remember as a kid watching Tarzan, the Disney movie of Tarzan, and of course the music is from Phil Collins. But when I started to, as I said before, when I started to get into music, I was 11, 12, and I started to got interested in metal, heavy metal, and other genres that came after. But yeah, I guess at that time it was like a Spanish band called Mago de Oz, which will be Wizard of Oz, but in Spanish. At that time, as a teenager, I really, really liked them because of this mix of metal with Celtic music, and it was it was a sound that I've never listened here before in my life, and I was really into it. So for many years I liked that band, but then I started to discover new styles. I had a period of gothic metal, and then
Right.
Japanese rock, Visual K. And after I fully grew up and became an adult, I focused on other kind of music, like what I like right now, like could be shoegaze, post rock, post punk, and ambient music in general. But I guess metal has been always around me in
Wow.
my in my life.
A very diverse music taste, if anything.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Do you remember the first physical media that you've ever owned that was yours? Like first CD, first record, first cassette?
Hmm. I mean, as a 90s kid, I had many movies on VHS, but I don't remember which one was the first one. I remember that when I was 6 or 7, my favorite movies were Jurassic Park and Men in Black. So maybe one of those two could have been my first VHS cassettes. Yeah,
Sure.
maybe. But after that, I don't have a memory of like a first item in particular. I guess VHS could be one of those, or some Disney movie when I was younger. And
What
as
about
a
music?
CD, yeah, about music, probably maybe could have been one album of this band I told you before. I think that could have been the first CD that I actually owned.
Okay.
And the album Gaia by this band called Mago de Oz. Yeah.
So this next question requires a bit of context, so bear with me.
Okay.
I'm a producer and audio engineer here at WGCU, a NPR PBS public media radio station in Southwest Florida. We have this other show called 3 Song Stories where we tell people's biography through music. The guests will come in and they'll pick songs that every time they listen to these songs, they will be immediately sent back to a time and place that they have a significant story associated with it. It could be funny, it could be silly, it could be heartbreaking, it could be, important to their lives in any way. I want to ask you, do you have a song story off the top of your head?
I do. When I came to live in Japan in 2016, those first weeks when I was searching for a place to live, when I was trying to figure out all the paperwork and stuff I had to do, there was this album in particular from TTNG, this British band that previously was called This Town Needs Guns, but they shortened the name to TTNG. And they have an album called Animals, and there is one song in that album called Baboon that for some reason in my mind is really attached to those first days in Japan trying to survive. Yeah.
How does that song fit into your life today?
As I said before, if I listen to that song, I will remember those first weeks in Japan. And I even had some times when I'm a really nostalgic person. And sometimes there are some songs that even though I really like them, I prefer not to listen to them because they can bring me back memories that for whatever reason I might be especially sentimental about at that particular moment. So I prefer not to listen to them until I'm feeling better.
Yeah. Understood.
So in this case, this song is a beautiful memory. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you for sharing, and like I said, we'll get deeper into that in a second. But here's a little segue. Did you have any video game consoles growing up?
Of course, I grew up with the PlayStation 1. Probably was my first console, and right after that I had the Game Boy Color. So I basically grew up with like PlayStation games and Game Boy games. Yeah, but I guess I always liked more the PlayStation ones because maybe as a kid those games were more like adult or more like forbidden, and I was more into that stuff. Yeah.
How do video games fit into your life today?
Well, I mean, it's my job, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I've been playing games all my life, but I actually never thought about making them. I honestly had no idea how to make games, and even though sometimes I fantasize about games that I would like to create in my mind, I never thought I want to do this professionally. But when I came to Japan, I found a job at a game company as a tester, and little by little I started to to get into that company and get other roles. And that's where I learned how to make games. But if before that experience, I really had no idea about. So it was just like a hobby, my favorite hobby. But once it became a job, it became something else. It's still a hobby. I still enjoy playing games, but of course now most of the games I play them from a like a study perspective, or
Mm.
like try to rather than only enjoy, try to see how they do things, how do they do this UI stuff
Right.
or design stuff, how could it be, try to learn the game design and why things are the way they are in the game, right?
Yeah, coming from an analytical approach.
Yes, I mean, depends on the genre, of course. If it's like a type of game that I'm not making at the moment,
Mm.
I am I can enjoy it more freely because I'm
Right.
not really studying anything. But yeah, most of the time it's a part of work. But I still love video games, and they still generate in me a very beautiful feeling of yeah. And if I stay long periods of time without playing games, I really feel like I want to play. So
Right.
that's
Yeah. And before getting into game development, you lived in Japan for 9 years and transitioned from
yeah.
photography to game
Yeah.
development. How has living in Japan influenced your artistic style and approach to storytelling?
Well, I guess because of course the game I made is based in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So being in Japan has been like a direct influence to pretty much everything inside the game, like how people dress, how places look like. It's been a really strong visual influence, and I tried to make the game as realistically as possible regarding the setting and the accuracy of the place, even though the characters speak in a way that perhaps is not natural in real life, but the place, the environments, they try to be as realistic as possible.
Right.
So that's definitely been like a huge influence. But I would say like my experience working at this video game company for I think I stayed there since 2016 until 2020. Yeah, so all those years basically taught me all I know about making games. And even though I worked at projects that I maybe didn't like that much, still that was like a really good learning experience because you need to get as much as possible from anything, right? Even if it's stuff you don't like.
Right.
So I believe because I had that like more serious or strict experience, I managed to develop. Last time I saw you following like a tight, no, not tight timeline, but like if the milestone is this day, the milestone has to be this day. That
Right.
kind of thing of mentality of being organized and trying to respect as much as possible the schedule. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah, now let's get into last time I saw you, your first
Mm.
debut game for Maboroshi
Yeah.
Artworks. First of all, congratulations on your recent release of it, and thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity not only
Mm.
to check it out and thank you for the free access to it, and just thank you for being on the show so we can talk about it and help spread the word out of
Yeah.
your amazingly sweet game. So
Wow. Thank you so much.
what was the turning point that made you decide, like the specific point that made you decide to pursue game development full time and work on this passion project of yours?
So many things happened. So as I said before, I started working in 2016 at this company in Osaka. It was originally a translation company. So I first started working there as a beta tester and then as a Spanish translator. But this company at the same time they were starting to make their own games. They had a really small development team and they were looking for a 2D artist and I happened to know how to draw. So I stopped being a translator and I joined them as a 2D artist. So that's it was a really beautiful moment. I really enjoyed because it was like a constant learning every day. I had really good relationship with the coworkers, so it was a really beautiful moment of my life. And they released that game that was a card game similar to Hearthstone. This company got the contract to make a remake or a reimagination of this Japanese game called Yume Nikki, which is a very niche game from the 2000s that I used to like before entering this company. So the company Kadokawa, the company that got the rights for the IP to this game, hired the company I was working for to make this remake. And because I happened to already know the game and I was a big fan of it, I joined that team as an art director, and I was really happy. Like it was like a dream come true to work on games, but not only on games, but also on the remake or reimagination or new version of this game that I already liked. So that made me realize that I really wanted to make games. That making games makes me happy. Before making games, as you said before, I was a photographer, and I originally came to Japan to take photos. And I always struggled with the photo work. Like I can take the photos, but then I always having a hard time trying to put all those photos together into a project or a photo book or something. And I remember that when I was working at Yume Nikki, I realized that video games could be a very interesting medium to tell stories, because with photography, you only have the photos you take. Maybe you can have some text, but it's basically photos.
Right.
But with a video game, you have the images that move, the music, the sounds, the writing. There were so many things that allowed me to be able to do so many more things that I was able to do with photos, right? So that's when I started to focus more on games and leaving photos aside, even though it's something I still really like and I want to go back to at some point. I decided to fully focus on games. And then the Yume Nikki got released, and maybe your question goes in this direction because maybe you already read about this before. At the same time that Yume Nikki released, I fall in love. I fell in love with someone, and that love was unrequited, right?
Right.
So it wasn't the first time in my life that something like did happen, but for some reason that particular experience was very very meaningful and very impactful to me, and it left me like kind of like it's stranded. I don't know if that's the word, for several months, like being in love with someone that is not in love with me, right?
Right.
And trying to accept that situation and move forward. So it was this was the summer of 2018. It was like a really weird summer, but I still remember it with some joy, because at the end it's like a life experience, and even if I was sad at that moment, it was still meaningful. And I guess I learned how to accept the situation and let go of this person. So when the summer ended and I was feeling much better and looking at brighter futures, I realized that as an artist, I wanted to do something with all this experience I went through. Because photography was not calling me at that moment, I decided, why not make a video game about, not about this story, but influenced by this story. So that situation, along with the fact that I was not very happy anymore at this video game company I was working at, the two things came together, and I decided, why not trying to make my own game? I think I briefly learned how to make games. I have this idea, and I just need to put everything together, and maybe something will come out of it. And that's how it started. I guess that's going back to your question. That was the moment. I guess that evening in I think it was September, that I thought, like, why not making something
Right.
with this.
Understood. You just mentioned that this game ties to this personal heartbreak experience. How did you manage to channel that emotion into the narrative and design of your game?
Well, I mean, writing the game has been a really long process, and the things I was writing at the beginning, or the things I had in mind at the beginning, changed a lot over the course of the years. At the beginning, I just wanted to tell about what happened to me, because for me, it's really helpful to write down how I'm feeling when I'm going through a difficult moment, or there is something I'm struggling with, something that I don't know how to manage. I learned that by writing those feelings, or putting those feelings into words, actually really helped me to, maybe the fact of reading them is what helps you, right? To read that from a different perspective helped me. So the beginning of last time I saw you was like, try to do something like that. Like, I went through this, I'm feeling better, but I still have this inside. And I think if I transform it into something, I will feel better, or I will overcome it, or I will fully overcome it, right? At the beginning, that's how it started. But for many years, I have the feeling that what I was writing was not so interesting or not so engaging, and I was falling into this trap of that, like these feelings are my own, and this experience happened to me, and I am the only person who actually understands this to its fullest because it happened to me. And if you write something so personal, it's very risky, because the people who reads that, maybe they cannot relate at all with that because they are not you, right? So at the beginning, I think last time I saw you was like that. And when I did the first round of pitches to publishers, some of them pointed these things out, like the story is interesting, but we are not feeling engaged, or we don't really care about these characters because we don't know them yet. And you are talking about so many stuff without actually knowing the characters. So years later, I'm advancing a lot in time. I was suggested by a publisher, why don't you hire a writer that helps you write the game? And that's when I contact Raquel de Miranda, who is the narrative designer of Last Time I Saw You, and she has helped me a lot putting those original dialogues or those original concepts into something more not general, but something that more people can
More,
relate to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of their background or the things they went through. So, but yeah, the writing is very emotional, but I have this fear of Raquel, like stopping me and and changing some stuff, and this dialogue is super boring, this is not working, why don't we do this? So yes, she helped a lot, and thanks to that, I learned how important narrative designers and writers are in a game, especially a narrative game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, thank you so much for giving us access to this game. And as I already told you, I've already platinumed the game.
Yeah.
You know, did absolutely everything within it, 100% completed. And that's usually how I like to play games, because I have this philosophy of, it's not mine, but Gerard the Completionist has this philosophy of, like, when you 100% a game, you are making sure that every aspect of the game is seen and you're interacting with it, and just like, giving credit where credit's due to the creators, to all the people who make a video game. And I fell in love with that, and that's how I like to play video games too. So whenever we have the chance to interview game developers like Chris Dare from Squid Shocks with Bill Path of the Teal Lotus, or Night Shift Games with Elsie, I do my best to complete the game as much as I can within like a dedicated amount of time, and if it's possible, whatever. So I'm really happy that I was able to do that with Last Time I Saw You, because the story is like the main draw to it, right? And it is a beautiful story, and I like that you talked about the relatability to it, because I feel like almost everybody who is around the age of the protagonist can relate to heartbreak and like being interested in someone and that not being reciprocated in some extent, and just love and loss, those themes, and I think you guys did an incredible job at conveying this and really telling. We see this type of story all over in Hallmark movies, and TV shows or whatever, but in video games I don't see it that much, like something that's specifically dedicated to this process of love and loss. Here we really get to sit down and hone in on the love and loss part and relationships you build with not only the yokai characters, the people in the forest, but also your friends and your family and the rest of the town. You really get to explore it. And this isn't a long game. This is about a 6, maybe 7 hour game, 8 tops. But it really feels like it takes us time to really take you into this world and really live out these days with these other characters. So you guys did an amazing job, and I'm sure that it was a challenge to really flesh this world out.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really, really happy, and I'm sure Raquel will also be very happy to hear this. I honestly also believe that we did a really good job here because, as you say, we tried to make even the game is like a magic realism story and there's some fantasy stuff. We tried to make the game as real as possible regarding the characters, especially the human characters. And it's interesting what you say that these are things that you normally don't see on video games, and I totally agree with you. Like I think some of the subjects we deal with in this game are stuff that you can see more on movies, books, or even
Right.
anime. But in video games, normally they don't really go that much in deep with the characters and their human traits, right? I think the one of the best, one of the first situations where we consider are we going when we were thinking if we were going in the right direction was in the first day in the prologue. There is a dialogue with a couple of schoolgirls that they want money to buy tobacco, right?
Yeah.
And and we had this thing like this is totally natural, especially in the 80s, like kids wanting to smoke because everyone is smoking, right? But then you start thinking, okay, well, but it's actually kids talking about smoking. Is that okay? I don't remember seeing any game where they show this. So yeah, at the beginning I was like worried about, is it okay to talk about this stuff because you don't have any other games to compare yourself and see if they were doing it right. And what happened? What happened is that I played Disco Elysium, and it was like, okay, you can do whatever you want because Disco Elysium, like characters go. I mean, have you played?
Yes, I'm very aware of Disco Elysium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you know Kuno
Yeah.
and Kuno is and these characters, right? So of course, last time I saw you is not doing that at all. But I guess playing Disco Elysium gave me like a calm me somehow. Like,
Right.
okay, these people are talking about this, because it makes sense with the story. It's not like just writing something weird just to be weird.
Right.
It makes sense with the story and it's well implemented. So that gave me basically the freedom to be able to talk about stuff that maybe we don't see on video games, but it's very human and it's very normal, right?
Yeah.
And it happens with this tobacco stuff, and it happens later with other love related stuff, with some family stuff, no, especially the father. Without going into spoilers, the father has this relationship with his own father that is affecting his present. So yeah, basically, many of those stories at the same time are inspired by real stuff that happened to my family or to people around me, and that's something that for me at least it works. Like if I'm going to write about something that I've actually experienced myself, it is easier and it makes more sense for me to write about that, right? I don't think I would be able at this moment of my life with the knowledge I have to write a story about a character that is drastically different from me or a setting that I have actually no idea. The game is set in Japan because I was in Japan and I've been living in Japan and I've been interested in Japan for so many years. But if you tell me to make the game in a country that I really have no idea with, I would really struggle because you can always do research, of course, but it wouldn't come out so easily or so natural, right?
Talking about the kind of game this is a strictly, or not strictly, but it's a heavy narrative story game with light action elements, and that's very emphasized. I'm sure it's very easy to turn this game into like, you know, another Metroidvania or something similar to that, where yeah, you can have like a lot of combat, more boss battles, or like boss battles period, you know, collectibles, you know, but you didn't go in that direction. Is there a particular reason why, or is it just mainly because the story is what you really wanted to focus on and what you wanted for people to take away?
Well, this is actually very interesting, and I believe I didn't share this information with anyone before, so this is like a exclusive information for you. Yeah. So last time I saw you was always going to be a narrative-driven game, as it is right now. And when I started working on the game, the main focus, the main priorities were the story, the characters, the visuals, etc. But for some period of time, last time I saw you was actually going to be a Metroidvania with narrative aspects. And actually, the basis of the programming were made with that in mind. And I've seen some reviews and some people saying stuff like this game has some elements that makes you think of a Metroidvania, but it's
Yeah.
not a Metroidvania, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the reason why. So, I mean, at that time it was 2019. I had just played Hollow Knight, and I was like overwhelmed by it and like loved it, everything about it. And it was 2019, so it was like the moment where Metroidvanias were pretty popular.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of Metroidvanias coming out. So it was a game that I really enjoyed. It was a game style that I really enjoyed. So everything related to the town was going to be the same, but everything inside the forest was going to have more action elements. And there is actually enemy designs or enemies that were actually implemented in the game that we didn't end up using. But what happened? Why did I change this route? I basically, before getting funding, I did 3 rounds of pitches, and with 2 of them with the game as a Metroidvania. And I was rejected by all the publishers. And one of the feedback they were given is like, we love the story, we love the characters, we love the music, but this action Metroidvania makes no sense. Like it's not connecting. And and then I realized that like people who want to play a Metroidvania doesn't want to go through 10 minutes of dialogue, and people who want to go to play a narrative game doesn't want to have challenging bosses, right? So I was really struggling of how to balance these 2 very different genres. And if you play any Metroidvania, you will see that all the story elements are more like lore, like hidden stuff, like description of items,
description
world building stuff, exactly. But they won't stop you to have like a really long dialogue,
right? It's there if you want it.
Yeah, exactly. So and then I was talking to Raquel, because that was the time when Raquel joined the team, and she told me like, I don't understand why you want to talk about a breakup story, acceptance, moving on, all these very human and emotional stuff, at the same time that you are like killing enemies and and doing combos and stuff like that. Like there was like a really big disconnection, and I was like, I mean, you are right. And I basically made this decision because I had something that was working, that was all the narrative, visual, musical stuff, and I had this other action stuff that was not working, that no one liked. I even hired someone to try to do some game design, so all that part makes more sense. But I realized that I was trying to fight against something that was not moving. Like it's like I found a big rock in the middle of the way, and instead of walking around the rock, I was like trying to hit the rock, right? and I realized that it made no sense to me. Like I've always approached the games from the narrative side. The thing I like the most about games are all the narrative aspects. I don't consider myself a good game designer regarding action, and that's why the game was not working as a Metroidvania. So I decided to remove all of that, reuse everything I could as for example, in the mines, you see this character called Dorotabo, which is this like monster made of mud.
Yeah.
That was a boss in the game before, and there must be some video somewhere in my computer of you actually fighting that boss with a life bar and all that. So so that's what I did. Yeah, I removed all of this that was not working and was really difficult to balance with the part that was working, and I decided to focus just on the narrative experience, but leaving some little elements that will make the game more agile or more gamey, to call it some way, rather than just like reading dialogues.
Right, understood. I totally get boss vibes from that same character as well. You know, I was kind of expecting it too, like coming down the mines and stuff. I was like, okay, here we go. Nothing. Okay. So I was a little unsettled, like progressing. I'm like, okay, maybe the next room. No. Oh, okay.
That's the thing. Like then, while moving forward with the narrative approach, we already had all this programming implemented about the attacks and everything. But then we consider putting like some boss fights and stuff like that. But then we realized that was going to bother players, because you've used the player to a narrative game for many hours, and suddenly you have to defeat a boss with a life bar and everything. Not everyone is going to be able to do that, because the target is not that kind of gamer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And many people will enjoy it, of course, but it will also be very frustrating to so many other people, and we didn't want to do that. So that's why all the action elements in the game are really, really, really simple on purpose.
Yeah.
So they are more just like another way to have fun. Like it's like in some games you have like breakable stuff that you can just break because just by the sake of breaking it, and it feels good, right? So these ghosts in the game follow a similar approach. You can get a little bit of money from them, but the focus of the game is not combat.
Yeah, awesome. It's a very interesting take, and it's not a knock to the game at all. It's just something that, I wasn't expecting to not have like these type of elements because I'm so used to them, Normally, if I weren't talking to you, I guess, and if you weren't recommended on the show, and I just saw this game like, in a void or whatever, I don't know if I would pick it up by myself just because of my preconceived notions of the type of games I already play, my comfort zone, right? But thanks to this opportunity, again, thank you, it really took me out of my comfort zone and sat me in a place or sat me in front of a game that I've never really played before. I don't really play narrative-driven story games. Like I play RPGs, right, which have heavy narrative stuff, heavy stories, but there's also a heavy balance of combat, turn-based systems, or whatever you want to call it. But this is story for the story, and I've never been used to it. But this is part of the reason why I love what we do here on the show, and kind of like one of the reasons why we have this show is what me and my co-hosts and my best friends do or try to do is not only do we talk about the things that we already love, like our favorite video games and all things pop culture, but it also gives us an opportunity for us to expand our horizons and explore new things that we wouldn't explore otherwise. Like, let's say my co-host Mauro is into like this specific thing that Chaz and I don't really interact with, don't play, don't watch, or we never even thought of it, and we're like, I don't know if we'd like it. He's like, well, give it a shot, let's try to do an episode on it and let's talk about it. So we take time to like watch or play the thing, and then we're like, oh my god, we just got introduced to a whole new thing that we've never experienced, and it's actually pretty cool, it's like, and this is how I feel when I got to play your game. This is a type of game that I wouldn't play by myself. But since I had this amazing opportunity to play it, now I'm experienced to something brand new and I like it. It's like, telling a kid, hey, eat this vegetable. You've never had it before, but try it. The kid's like, no, I don't want to have it because I've never had it before. It's going to be gross. He eats it and he's like, oh my God, this is actually pretty good. That's the type of vibe that I get, and that's what I love about this. So again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for saying that. And I mean, I don't think that I created something unique or that I invented the wheel. But it's true that, but it's true that narrative games always used to be like really slow paced.
Right.
And maybe with Last Time I Saw You, we tried to add many elements that keep the game as a game.
Yeah.
For example, you have an inventory, you have collectibles, you have side quests, you have like mini games, like some stuff that support the narrative because everything is related to the narrative and the events of the game, but they feel more like a game, like pressing buttons and all that. And I think maybe because of this, the game can be more easily approached by people that maybe think, oh, narrative games are boring because you're just reading all the time. Not all of them, and in the case of Last Time I Saw You, you have this other many stuff around it that will make your time, less boring, right? To call it some way, I don't say narrative games are boring. I made a narrative game myself. I love narrative games, but I understand that many people that is not used to the genre can feel that way about narrative games, and it's totally normal.
Yeah, I was one of those people who were just like, narrative games aren't my speed. It's too slow paced. But when I first boot up the game, it was like, I don't know, 7 p.m. right? I was so engrossed in the game
Wow.
that I didn't stop playing until I rolled credits at like 2 a.m.
Wow.
the following
Oh, that's
morning.
so nice. Thank you so much.
No problem. I mean, thank you for making a game that's easy to get lost in. You know, getting lost in the forest, right? The only like real super hard thing that took me like a day or two to get was to beat the mini game, the five dragon
Mini game.
mini
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
But that was
that one is
fun.
a little bit challenging. Like the programmer is who designed this game, and he really likes this kind of game, like arcade stuff, and because it's in the 80s, we wanted to make it feel realistic, and it's also, I mean, and the fact that it's difficult is also related to the story of the game, because there's like a thing between Ayumi and his mother related to this game, and there's actually a dialogue in the epilogue that will be different depending if you've beaten the game before that
Interesting.
point or not. So if it was a game that you finished the first time you tried, it wouldn't really make sense to have it there, right?
Hmm.
Not only because it will be too easy to the player, but also because it wouldn't support that much the event of Ayumi wanting to beat this game and not being able and having to try so many times, right? And the mother doing the same time on her own free time. So yeah, it's not impossible. It's just like like games in that time. There is some RNG
Oh yeah.
going on. Like it's basically what appears on the chests, right? And if
Yeah.
you're lucky and you get many extra lives, then the game will be easier, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm happy, and I'm happy that you enjoyed this game despite not being used to these games. It's really good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And like I said, you know, it has opened my eyes to a whole new type of genre of game that I am excited to continue exploring when I see them come up, you know? So thank you for being my first introduction to these type of narrative games.
It's a pleasure.
I want to touch upon the arts a little bit, mainly
Hmm.
because I love hand-drawn art in video games. That's like one of the key selling points, or one of the easiest way to sell something to me is telling me that it's hand-drawn, and I absolutely love it. Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus, hand-drawn,
Yeah.
and I can't express enough how much I love that game. Wario Land Shake It, or Wario Shake It, whatever. That's all hand-drawn and it's beautiful. You know, like there's something about hand-drawn games that is incredible. Indivisible, I think it's mainly because like it's easy to tell that someone, like an actual person, took so much time and effort going over the meticulous details to bring this world to life. I want to ask you, what was the process like for creating these visuals, and how did your background in fine arts contribute to it?
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot. Well, the reason why the game is hand drawn is because when I back in the day when I started to think about the idea of making a game, I of course I had no money, so I had to approach it from the safest or cheapest way possible, and because I am a 2D artist myself and I studied fine arts, I know how to draw. So if I decided to go for a 2D game, I will be able to do all of that myself, and I will be saving money on a 3D artist or something like that. The next game I want to make, I want it to be different. So of course, new things will come. But for this first game, I remember I was watching many GDC talks, and there was this talk in particular that was saying like you should go to the minimum possible and then expand from there instead of trying to make like a super big open world game or
Right.
whatever. Like try to make something that you know that you can actually do, and then if you can expand.
Right.
And that was the approach. So it's like I don't have money to hire anyone, and I know that I cannot do programming, so I need a programmer. If I start to add new people, it will be more complicated. So I decided to do the art myself. And once that was decided, I had to decide an art style, of course. And at that moment, I was really into something called photo basing. That it's basically it's really useful for concept art. and it's basically like assembling, making an illustration from many different photos. And I always really like that, like dirtiness of that way of working. And like, for example, some concept art, and if someone has a shirt, maybe that shirt is just a photo of like of a shirt found online. They put it and paint a little on top, and it's there. And I really always love that mix of painting with photo, and try to say, as you say, like an actual human person made this, because it's not perfect and there is a lot of different traits, right? But I started to do some environment concepts with that art style, but it was not really matching the story I wanted to tell. And then it's when I decided to go for something more colorful, more hand drawn, and more influenced by movies from Ghibli and other Japanese animes, right? So that's how this art style came to me. And as you probably see, there's a lot of light flares and light stuff in the game. That's because once again, it's something that I really like. That comes from the photography years. And so basically, I tried to mix or blend a more traditional anime background art style with a lot of like post processing and light stuff on top, which is something that this Makoto Shinkai, the director of Your Name, he really puts a lot of like light flares and stuff. And so studying his works was also important to come up with some light effects in the game. Yeah.
Understood.
And that's how it came to me. Like at university, I learned how to. Well, I've been painting and drawing all my life, but at university I learned how to properly do that. And at this job in Japan, I started to use Photoshop to paint. So yeah, basically mixing all that knowledge into what is Last Time I Saw You.
Understood. Well, you did an amazing job, and I really, really love the art style. It's really cute, and it fits the vibe of 1980s Japan perfectly.
Thank you.
How did real life inspiration like the Jebi typhoon that hit Osaka in 2018 shape some of the game's theme and or world building elements? Like, how much of real life did you really put into this game?
I think it's full of real life stuff because it's not only the main story, the main heartbreak that inspires the story of Last Time I Saw You, but as you said, also that typhoon that happened in 2018 when I started to do some concepts for Last Time I Saw You. This super big typhoon came, and it was actually my first time experiencing a typhoon. And it was crazy. I've never experienced something like that before. And I remember I was at my apartment, and the building was shaking, like if it was an earthquake, but it was actually the wind shaking the building. So it was a really, really impressive natural event, and I wanted to put it into the game because all the storm that we go through at those years, right? Like when we are like growing up and discovering a lot of new stuff and not understanding many of that stuff. It feels like a storm, like a typhoon inside of you, right?
Right.
So I wanted to put that natural element into the game and connect it with the main story. Because I guess I also like movies when there's something on the background that is going on,
right?
And like the climax of the movies when that thing happens. Well, movies or games, but yeah, I don't know. I enjoy that feeling. And apart from this, as I said before, many family stories, like most of the father stuff with his own father is things that my own father went through with my grandfather. Or for example, I don't know if you remember the story that about the air raid. Do you remember that one? Like the mother at some point tells a story about a couple of kids hiding in a shelter during an air raid. Well, that thing that is in the game that actually happened to my grandfather. So yeah, there is many.
Oh, the air raid. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, the air raid. Yeah. That's something
yes,
that happened
remember.
to my grandfather actually
Wow.
during the Spanish Civil War. Not in Japan, of course.
Right.
But it's the same thing, and I thought it was funny, so I put it there. So no, yeah, there is a lot of stuff there, and as I said before, like all of these things are mine and related to me, and if I write them that way, it will be really difficult for people to connect with them. But because of this thing that we did of trying to transform those events into shaping them into something that could be better understood by more people, I think we end up with these characters that perhaps even if the same thing didn't happen to you, you can understand it a little, or you can relate to it, or you've met someone who went through something similar, right? So, and I think maybe that's why the game might feel more real, as some people said before. Maybe because it's based on many real stuff, right? And I'm happy with the result. Yeah, it's very interesting these days. Not only with you, but I was talking about this yesterday with Raquel. Like it's so weird for me to see people that I absolutely don't know talk so much in depth about the game I made. Like I've been working on this for so many years, and suddenly this person that I don't know is theorizing about the meaning of stuff. And it's like, wow, it's very beautiful, very interesting, but at the same time, it's kind of weird, right? Like, wow.
Yeah, complete strangers are like analyzing your life, kind of.
and the most funny thing is, like, most of the time they are right. And some stuff that they say is like, how did they? I mean, I guess because we made it in such a way that people can reach that conclusion, right? But sometimes you feel like it's something so personal that other people won't go to that same like theory, and they do. So it's very beautiful to see that. Like, and as you said before, like you spend all these hours playing this game and you feel engaged about it. It, for me, I guess as an artist, makes me really happy to see that I've created something that people can enjoy, right?
Right.
So thank you for playing it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for making it, and also thank you for allowing us to pet the dog.
Oh, so, I mean, of course, you have to do that. I actually wanted to pet cats as well, but for budget and time schedule, we couldn't.
Aww.
But at least you can pet the dog.
Yeah. It's always nice when that's implemented into a game. All right, well, are you ready to get into the speed round?
Yeah, well, if I don't take too long thinking about the answers, yes.
Yeah, it's called the speed round, but you can take as much time as you need.
Okay.
If you were the final boss in a video game, what would your title be?
The Annoyer.
The Annoyer.
Because I really annoy people. I feel like, I guess I want to do things as best as possible, right? And that might lead into becoming a little bit annoying, so I guess I would be the Annoyer. Yeah.
What would your boss theme music be, and you can choose any song from anywhere?
I don't know, but talking about music boss themes, I for some period in my life I really enjoyed the soundtrack of Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, the Raiden one, and I really liked those boss themes because of course they were really like heavy music and all that, but the lyrics were related to the actual story of those bosses, and I like that. Like, so yeah, I don't know, maybe some similar to the ones in that game.
Understood. Yeah. If you can live in the world of your favorite childhood show, movie, or video game, which one would it be and why?
Well, this is a weird one because my favorite game as a kid was Abe's Odyssey. I really love that game, but the world where the game takes place is a really dark and scary world. So I love the game, but I don't know if I would like to live there. I don't know. I guess, as a kid, I guess I would have been really happy if I was at the Men in Black headquarters with all those aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Which character from your childhood favorite show, movie, or game would you most like to have as a friend in real life?
Well, I would say Abe from Abe's Odyssey. Yeah. That was my favorite character. I was making drawings all the time, and I remember my mom told me like as a kid I even kind of walked like him. So yeah, I guess it's a character. I don't know. As a kid, I felt so attached to that character, even though he's really ugly. But I really it's like people who like ET, right?
Right.
Like ET is physically not very pleasant, but there is a charm. So with Abe from Abe's Odyssey and Abe's Exodus, it's the same feeling, I guess.
Okay, understood. If your current favorite show or movie were to be adapted into a musical, what genre of music would you envision for it?
One of my favorite shows is Succession. I really, really love Succession, and I cannot imagine Succession being a musical.
Uh-huh.
but yeah, let's say Succession with like some kind of opera musical. I think that could match. That could be interesting. Yeah.
Okay. If you can have a cameo appearance in any movie or show, which one would it be and what role would you play?
I guess if it was a movie, some character that is kind of lost, maybe like I don't know how to explain this. Like not because like this kind of character like it's like in the shit, and it's like really really like maybe drunk or something like that. But there is like some beauty inside of the character that maybe is going through a hard time, but there is hope, and he will come out of that like darkness where he is at the moment. So I guess my cameo will be a character like that. I guess. Yeah.
Okay. What activities or pursuits most make you lose track of time?
I guess watching movies. I really love movies, and I try to. I mean, I cannot do this, of course, every day, but I try to watch one movie every day before going to sleep. But sometimes if I'm playing games, I don't do that, and I play games instead. But yeah, no, I can get totally lost in watching a movie and then like researching about the movie, the actors, the directors. Like I really love watching movies from that perspective. And if there's an actor that I like, watch all the movies that this actor made, and see this person with different faces and stuff. So yeah, I can spend a lot of time with that. Yeah.
Understood. What would your 14-year-old self think of who you are today?
Wow. That's a interesting one. I guess at that time of my life, I still had no idea about Japan, and I had no interest in Japan. So I guess my 14-year-old self wouldn't be that much impressed that I actually ended up in Japan, because at that moment I wasn't interested in Japan. But yeah, I guess a 14-year-old me who was like listening to heavy music and painting Warhammers. I don't think this person would ever imagine that I was going to end up living 9 years in Japan. Like, we'll be like, what the f***? What happened to you? In what moment of your life did you decide to change and go so far away? Yeah.
Well, it is now time for you to recommend 3 people that you'll share this episode when it comes out, and that you think they'll be a good guest on the show, and if you think they'll say yes to coming on the show, and that you're going to help me get them on the show.
Well, I can help you as much as possible, but I don't know. I didn't prepare this. I don't know if these people will actually be available or interested.
That's okay.
I can tell you one person will be Sergio. Sergio, he has been the programmer of Last Time I Saw You. And he has his own studio called Sonsai Games. He's working on his new game right now, which is called Super Sammy Roll 2. He made 2 games already. One is called Super Sammy Roll, and the other one is called Bad Boy, which is and that's also why in Last Time I Saw You there is an achievement called Bad Boy, like a reference to that game. Yeah, so it's a really cool game. Like Super Sammy Roll is not the kind of game I play, because it's like a physics-based platformer similar to Monkey Ball, but Bad Boy is a really good game. So yeah, he has helped me a lot with Last Time I Saw You and many other stuff. So I would recommend him. Yeah, another one who is very busy right now, and I don't know if it will be like available. He's Toby. He's the developer of a game called Above Snakes, and currently he's making a new game called Outbound that maybe you've heard about. It's a game where you basically have like a van, and you can customize the van, and you have to. It's like a farming game, but you move the base with you because it's a van.
Oh,
So
that's
everything
fun.
you build on top of the van or inside the van, and you can move around. That's the cool thing. So Toby has really helped me a lot with last time I saw you, especially with marketing stuff or tips to make the game reach more people. So yeah, I will say him as well, and one more person, right? This last person, I have two options in mind. Perhaps I can recommend you Edu. Edu, he's the creator of Narita Boy. Did you know?
I
Have you heard
don't.
that game?
No.
Uh, Narita game is a really cool Metroidvania. He's also same as me. He's from Spain. He's been in Japan for many years, and well, actually Sergio the same. But yeah, Edu made Narita Boy, and now he's making Haneda Girl, and he will be releasing a demo very soon, I believe. And I think he also has a really interesting story about, yeah, but basically a person from Spain going to Japan, and I personally really like Narita Boy. I think you might like it because it's a Metroidvania, but it has really really strong emotional stuff that I think is really well implemented. So I think you might like Narita Boy. Yeah.
I will definitely check it out.
Okay. So those are the three people. Yeah. I
Awesome.
see.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. We'll do what we can to get them on the show.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to talking to those people. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, the about the game, I would say that it's kind of crazy to have the game already released after so many years, and I really want to thank everyone who has played the game and has reviewed the game on a video or on a comment or on a Steam review. Because as I said before, it's really beautiful to see how people react to what you've made, especially if it's something that emotionally it's so special and so important. So yeah, I really want to thank everyone who has played the game, and I hope that more people will know about the game because we didn't have the best marketing, and I'm not a famous person at all. So the outreach has been really, really small, and I still believe that there is so many people out there that will enjoy the game that still don't know about the game. So yeah, I'm trying to do my best to reach more people, and hopefully this podcast will help. And about the podcast itself, I really enjoyed it. Like the reason why I did it is because Chris said that he enjoyed it a lot, and because the questions were kind of. I really like that you talk about music, that you talk about childhood, that you talk about personal stuff, not just like tell me about the game and let's move to the next one.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. So it's been really beautiful to share those things, and yeah, I want to thank you for creating this concept of like not just like an interview to promote the game, but try to learn about the person who made the game.
That's exactly it, man. Thank you so much for appreciating that. And that's very much, what we try to do here on the show. It's, yeah, of course we could do like standard, basic journalism. Okay. We're only going to talk about last time I saw you or whatever, but especially for this game, there is an emotional connection behind this, and of course I want to always explore that with you and with any other guests we have on the show. And thanks to Chris being on the show, now we have a great relationship with Squid Shock, with him and the other people who made Bo, and I hope that we can count on you to also build our relationship with each other and all that good stuff. So just thank you so much for being on the show. It was a great time talking to you, and I'm so happy that I really got to pick your brain, your heart, I guess, about this passion project of yours that has come from the heart. And again, amazing game. You guys done an amazing job, and you can believe that I will leave links to all of it in the description down below.
Thank you. Oh, wait, I have one more person that I think will be very interesting.
Sure.
If it's possible. Okay, so there is this developer called Remy. He's the creator of this game called 1000 Times Resist. It's another narrative game from this year. And I can say that it's my favorite game of this year so far.
Wow.
This one is fully narrative. A lot of dialogue, but really, really good voice acting, which makes things better in my opinion. So yeah, I will also recommend Remy for this because I'm actually really interested in what he might answer to your questions, because I really like the game, so I want to know more about it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just see what we can do to get them on.
Okay.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Juan, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It's all right. That's all the time we have for today, guys. If you want to hear more from Juan, be sure to follow his studio, Mabaroshi Artworks, on X, Instagram, and Twitter at Mabaroshi Artworks. And don't forget to check out his newly released game, Last Time I Saw You, available on Steam, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox. Links to everything will be in the description down below. Please let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at RazzleDazzleShow, on TikTok at Razzle_Dazzle_Show, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Raz_Daz_Pod. Be sure to leave us 5-star ratings and a nice little written review down below, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Next time on The Delta Quest. Our heroes are splintered, loyalties shattered. Will Urzak be able to save himself from the cold embrace of death? Will Pike be able to save the townsfolk from the Lich's wrath? And will Wuzzy make it home in time for the big game? Find out next time on The Delta Quest.